Do you think that eating healthy costs a lot of money? I run across this all the time where people think that, to eat healthy, it requires just buying everything organic and spending a lot of money and I can't afford it. And I'm here to tell you that honestly, I probably spend way less on food than most people. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and I'm going to talk about more of that and how it's done in today's episode. So strap in, get ready for episode 155. Let's go.
I've always been that skinny guy.
Why can't I gain muscle mass?
What do I do in the gym?
They said I'd always be skinny.
This is your complete source for how to gain lean muscle and break out of your skinny body. From nutrition to getting the most out of your workouts and everything in between. We know just how frustrating gaining muscle mass can be, but don't worry, we've got you covered. You're listening to the Bones to Bulk podcast.
Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brian Parody, and I will be your host today. And if this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here. I know there's a lot of different options out there. And for all my return guest listeners, thank you for coming back. It means a lot to that, you are taking time to come back and listen again. And I just greatly appreciate that. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to mention, I do offer personal one-on-one training. You can find out more at bonestobulk.com, but basically it's all done over Zoom. I sit down with you. I figure out what works for you and your schedule and your preferences and what equipment you have on hand. And I build a workout and meal plan based around you. It is customized for you. It's not a cookie cutter thing. And then I walk with you through the journey. We meet weekly over Zoom and we discuss what's working, what's not working, make adjustments as needed. It's an 8-week course, and that is something that you can get involved in today. So head on over to bonestobulk.com to find out more about that. With that being said, let's dive in. So I get the confusion with, in order to eat healthy, you have to have, just a big grocery budget, right? You've got to buy everything organic and grass-fed beef and milk that's raised by a cow in the Shire and is milked by Frodo himself. Like, I get it. We have this concept that everything has to be just so pure in order to eat healthy. And while I'm not saying you can't eat organic if that's your thing, or, the grass-fed whole way around, but I'm cheap, okay? I'm just being real. I don't like spending a lot of money. And for me, I'm always trying to find the cheapest ways to eat healthy. So hopefully I can provide a lot of value with some tips on how to do that. First off, where you shop matters a lot. And I didn't used to think that this mattered. I was like, oh, grocery store is a grocery store, right? Or, I can go to Walmart for cheap. Well, you know what I found? There's cheaper options out there. There absolutely are. So where you shop is very important. I'm going to give you an example. I live in a city and there's basically three, with the exclusion of Walmart, there's 3 grocery store options. Now, one of these is a more high-end grocery store. In other words, I don't understand why, but their prices are just a lot higher than most grocery stores, and I'm sure you've experienced this. Then we also have Kroger, which is pretty common. It is more budget-friendly, and for a long time I did shop at Kroger, and I still go to Kroger for some things. Then I discovered Aldi's, or maybe you have, I think it's pronounced Lidl, it's Lidl. All these are really, really cheap options to get some really healthy food. And so first off, that's my main thing, is decide where you're going to shop. Now, second off, there's some ways you can save even more money. If you shop, for instance, at Kroger or a lot of the other big box grocery stores, usually if you download their app, they have digital coupons, and you can usually save quite a bit of money doing this. When I shopped at Kroger, I did this for a long time, and I would usually save about $10 to $15 a week just by scanning through their coupons. Third, there is an app called Ibotta. Now, Ibotta pretty much only works for the most part with name brand stuff. So for me, I don't get a lot of value out of it because I don't usually buy name brand. I usually buy store brand stuff because it's cheaper. But if you do like store brand stuff, it is a great thing because basically what it does is it gives you cash back. So, if you purchase a product, you scan your receipt and it will just literally deposit money into your account for whatever the coupon's worth. So you're basically getting rebates on items you purchase. So that's some basic setups. Now, as far as your actual shopping, I don't buy anything organic. I'm not saying anything against organic, but personally to me, I've read enough different material that makes me believe there's really not much difference between organic and non-organic. And so for me, it's not worth the price point. I wash my veggies and fruit pretty good, and I'm content with that. So you've got to kind of evaluate in your mind, what are you willing to do? And it always kills me that people are like, oh, you don't eat organic lettuce while they're going out and eating fast food. I'm like, really? Like, not even making this up. The other day I had somebody comment on a status that I posted that chicken was toxic and I needed to stop eating it. Now, I get that the meat industry is not the best. I fully 100% think that. However, I also have to take in consideration, what am I willing to change and what am I just going to say, you know what? We live in a day and age where things aren't the way they were 500 years ago, and I have to kind of be okay with that. You know what I mean? So yes, I'm going to eat my chicken. I don't think it's toxic. But what's fascinating to me is, and I'm not like trying to point a finger or anything, but so often people who are very stickler about certain things like not drinking cow's milk or will go out and then eat at a restaurant with all kinds of crap. So you kind of have to pick your battles, you know what I'm saying? So for starters, meat I know can be an expensive thing. I only buy pretty much chicken or turkey or fish, and fish only if it's on sale, because again, usually fish is more costly. With chicken, you can usually get it pretty cheap, and with turkey, I don't know where you shop necessarily, but if you have an Aldi's nearby, their ground turkey is ridiculously cheap. These are some good options for meat. You don't have to be eating steaks, and you shouldn't be eating red meat that often anyway. So, just eliminating red meat and pork usually will drop your meat budget down. When it comes to sides, I highly recommend things like rice and quinoa, beans, chickpeas, potatoes, whole wheat pasta. All this stuff is really inexpensive. Maybe with the exception of quinoa, it can be pricey depending on where you live. But, your sides don't have to be fancy. You can buy a lot of different spices and sauces like hot sauce, or use salsa, or things like mustard and soy sauce and Worcester sauce, things that are low calorie to really flavor up your dishes to where you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on your sides. So that's pretty much my staple for what sides I use. Again, it's potatoes or quinoa or rice, beans or chickpeas or something of that nature. Then we get into veggies, and you don't have to buy organic veggies. I usually get stuff like zucchini and squash. Sometimes we'll make salads, and that stuff's really inexpensive. Like zucchini, you can get a crap ton of zucchini for very cheap. Saute it up in some olive oil, add some spices to it, and it's freaking legit. I say all this, don't be discouraged that you have to buy all this expensive stuff. You don't. Even snacks, things like Greek yogurt cups, they're super cheap. You can add some protein powder in them to spruce them up. Add a piece of fruit on the side of it. You can eat things like cottage cheese or non-fat cheese sticks, any kind of tree nuts. The point is, it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be all this crazy stuff you've never heard of. Your food can be very simple. And usually the simpler we make it, the better. I used to work at a job where almost every single person there would go out to eat for breakfast and lunch. Maybe they were only going to McDonald's and Burger King, but still, you can't really get in and out of there without spending like $7-8 on something, decent, unless you're ordering off the dollar menu. And then it's just crap and you're hungry an hour later. But I can make a breakfast and lunch for probably $4 to $5 for both of them combined. So my breakfast and my lunch is probably about $2 to $2.50 per day. That's ridiculously cheap, right? Where can you get good, nutritious food for that price? Like oatmeal for breakfast, or having some eggs with a piece of whole wheat toast and a glass of non-fat milk. This stuff is not expensive food. It's extremely cheap. It's some of the cheapest stuff you can buy. So I hope this encourages you and helps you realize, hey, you know what? My food doesn't have to be complicated. My food doesn't have to cost a fortune. I don't have to be eating caviar every night. So implement some of these things and let me know what some of your favorite foods are. All right, with that being said, if you are on social media, please look us up. We are at Bones to Bulk everywhere, and I do respond pretty much on everything. If you want to get in touch with me, usually Facebook or IG is the best place to do that, and I would love to talk with you if you have any questions, or we have a great group community on Facebook you can join, a great community around Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest. Literally you can find at Bones to Bulk everywhere. And if you've not checked out our YouTube channel, you are missing out on some solid workout videos, so youtube.com/Bones to Bulk. All right, with that being said, thank you so much for listening, and remember, no matter what your goals are, you can accomplish them. You've got this.